Oh, man.
Sachi, 目が覚めたのか?
Sachi's uncle to the rescue. I heard a chair scraping against the whatever floor nearby. A moment later, a familiar face appeared before me.
ああ、おじさんだ。それより体は大丈夫か？どこかが痛かったり気持ち悪かったりしないか？
I gingerly moved my arms and legs several times, but couldn't find anything wrong with my body.
大丈夫。
そうか。よかった。
Well, since she probably collapsed in the road with her parents, it probably made it seem like she was also a part of the accident. My uncle smiled broadly at my words, tears in the corners of his eyes. Still a little dopey from waking up, I felt a simple curiosity about the intense emotion so evident in his face.
ねえ、おじさん。何かあったの？
When I put the question into words, my uncle averted his eyes, his expression filled with reluctance and
お前
pain.
の両親はな、サチ。事故にあったんだ。
事故。
As I dully repeated my uncle's words, a memory that had slipped cleanly from my mind slowly reemerged. A small park, dyed in the light of the evening sun. The smell of burning rubber, the sound of a truck idling. And finally, Mom and Dad lying in pools of their own blood. The scene flashed before my eyes in perfect clarity. Reflexively, I tried to look away, but there was no escape, and in the next moment my ears were filled with that awful droning buzz. Oh, so we're all hearing it. I was wondering what that was. I mean, it's like nighttime now, so it was daytime when I started recording this shit, but now it's nighttime. I just thought there was like a bug or something outside.
サチ。
My field of vision grew slowly narrower, and a choking sense of paralysis, or whatever, spread throughout my body. It felt as though my body temperature had suddenly plunged. A violent wave of nausea and a splitting headache attacked me all at once.
おい、サチ、大丈夫か？
おじ
サチ！ 先生、サチが目を覚ましたんですが、急に苦しみ出して。
As the world grew dim before my eyes, I could vaguely make out my uncle shouting desperately for someone's attention. Wait, now I can't see or hear anything. Oh, guess I'm fainting again. The instant the thought ran through my head, I plunged into nothingness. God damn, dude. This story is absolutely intense. It would be a full 3 days before I woke up again. When the nurse noticed my eyes were open, she immediately called the doctor in charge, who conducted a quick examination on the spot. After determining that I wasn't so severely impaired as to cause difficulties in ordinary conversation, the doctor began to explain many things to me. Uncle Akihiro, who came running over to the hospital, soon joined in as well. That day, Mom and Dad had been in a traffic accident but right before my eyes. Just as I ran out toward them, a truck with a drunk driver behind the wheel had barreled through the intersection, ignoring a red light. Why does it always seem like it's always a drunk driver? I don't know if it's trying to get a message across or what, but even in fictional stories, it's always a drunk driver. That just goes to show you how real that is and how common it happens. Hit head-on by the massive vehicle, which had been traveling at 60 kilometers an hour or more, my dad died instantly from massive blunt force trauma. Oh my god. but her mother survived it just a little longer. Mom had miraculously survived, but at the moment she was still unconscious, fighting for her life in critical condition. When I learned all this, I didn't cry and grieve, and I didn't explode with anger against the man who caused the accident. The words the doctor used were really hard to understand, so a lot of the conversation went over my head. That probably had something to do with it. But more than anything else, nothing about this situation felt remotely real to me.
やっぱりちゃんと動く。
That night, finally alone in my darkened hospital room, I flexed my legs and arms thoughtfully. No matter how many times I tested it, my body didn't feel injured. I could move just as freely and easily as before. And maybe Dad was dead, maybe Mom was lying unconscious somewhere in this hospital, but I hadn't seen either of them yet. So maybe everyone telling me about this accident was just lying. Maybe if I were to get up out of bed and head straight home, my parents would be waiting for me there. My thoughts persistently returned me to these comforting paper-thin theories.
お医者さんが嘘を言うはずないし。
It sucks for her to think about stuff like that though. And more importantly, in the depths of my mind, a clear memory remained. Oh man. The instant my thoughts brushed against that fragment of the past, I could hear my heart throb violently in my chest. This time, the shrill buzzing that had accompanied the similar incident 3 days earlier was conspicuously absent. In exchange, the most severe headache of my life fell upon me with all the suddenness and force of an avalanche. The sharp burst of pain, as if my body was warning me not to touch an open wound, robbed me of the will to think. Then, I'll just stop trying. I'm sick of fainting. To not think is kind of difficult. As soon as I emptied my mind, the headache vanished with astonishing speed. My breaths came easier, and I could feel my heartbeat gradually returning to its normal rhythm.
違う。
There's something wrong with my body after all. Nothing like this ever happened to me before that day.
じゃあ私の頭に残ってるあの光景は。
As my mind began to reach a conclusion I didn't want to accept, I involuntarily recalled the agony I had just endured. If I remember what happened, that pain will come back. The ensuing wave of terror wiped all else from my mind. Pulling the blankets over my head in search of refuge, I waited for the morning to come. Man. Unbelievable shit here, guys. Did that accident they keep talking about really happen? Several days later, that disbelief still lingering in my mind, I was taken to visit my mom in the intensive care unit, ICU by the way, for the first time. After carefully disinfecting my hands with alcohol, the nurses dressed me up in a hospital gown just like theirs, then finally ushered me into the room. And just as they told me, my mother was inside. But the person lying on the bed in front of me wasn't the mom I knew. There was a huge oxygen mask covering her mouth. Bandages were wrapped around her head. Numerous tubes were sticking out of her body, connecting her to all sorts of machines. The sight reminded me of nothing so much as the Frankenstein monsters I've seen in movies. But this was reality. That day, the accident happened exactly as they told me, and now my mom was sleeping in a nest of machines. And the instant I finally perceived that undeniable fact as reality, I was struck by a powerful wave of nausea. The hospital room grew dark before me, and in that darkness, a fuzzy image flickered before my eyes, disappearing for the briefest of moments only to re-emerge, like some pale and distinct horror, bobbing up and down just beneath the surface of a muddy lake. Unable to endure the sickness swelling up from the core of my body, I vomited up the contents of my stomach on the spot and was hastily carried out of the room by the nurse who accompanied me. After that, I tried to return to the ICU numerous times, but the outcome was always the same. The moment I saw my mother in the hospital bed, I experienced severe nausea and was quickly removed from the room. My doctor took these events very seriously and eventually forbid me from visiting Mom for the time being. That night I laid awake in bed until well after the lights had been turned out, unable to fall asleep. I hadn't suffered any real injury, so sitting around all day often left me with too much physical energy. Sometimes I would go an entire day without feeling hungry or lie awake in bed for hours. And today the things I heard during the daytime were also weighing heavily on my mind. I lay in my bed staring up at the now familiar tiles on the ceiling and thought about my parents.
もうこの世界にお父さんはいない。それにお母さんだって。
She might never open her eyes again. Sometimes I'd overhear my uncle talking about it with the nurses in lower tones. Apparently, Mom was sick with something called a persistent vegetable state. Fuck. She's gone. That's it. From what I could figure out, that meant the possibility she'd wake up again was really, really low. Mom's gonna be asleep forever and ever. In other words, I'd never be able to talk to her again. A bitter frustration welled up inside me at the thought.
そんなの嫌だよ。
But no matter how I tried to deny the reality, nothing would change. Even if my parents' job would no longer keep us apart, the blissful days I'd wished for would never return. The more I understood the situation, the heavier my despair grew. Tears spilled relentlessly from my eyes. My mind was filled with a miserable new question. Why? Why had it turned out like
あ
this?
の日は私の誕生日だったのに。本当ならゆうくんと一日中遊んで去年よりもずっと
It was
楽しい
absolutely
日になるはずだったのに。
absolutely worse than the year before, man. But in reality, I hadn't been able to see him. And because of that sudden accident, Dad was dead and Mom was sleeping forever. Everything I loved had been taken from me in one horrible instant.
どうしてこんなことになったの。私こんなの嫌だよ。どうして。
When I squeezed my eyes shut in an attempt to escape the cruel reality of my situation, I thought I heard someone's voice in my mind.
ねえ、サチ。どうしてあの時家を飛び出してしまったの？どうしていい子にしていてくれなかったの？
It wasn't Yuji that made her think she had to be a good girl.
お母さんもお父さんもトラックにはねられて
It's her mind
とて
messing
も
with
とて
her.
も痛かったのよ。
Jesus Christ, dude. Since the day I accepted the accident had really happened, these feelings had been lurking unacknowledged in the depths of my mind. That accident happened because of me. If I had listened to my parents and stayed in the house, they wouldn't have been in the street when that truck ran the red light. Even Yukun, I selfishly tried to manipulate him into coming into the park. Maybe that's why he didn't show up. Maybe he just finally got sick of me. In other words,
全部私のせいだ。
as I spoke those words, the ringing in my ears returned for the first time in a while, harsher and shriller than ever before.
これ
A dull paralysis spread throughout my body, very similar to what I used to experience before fainting overexertion on the playground. But the venomous chill crawling up my spine clearly signified that this was something else entirely. Something shadowy and unfamiliar and malevolent was attacking my body. My heart thumped violently in my chest, and in that moment, the world froze around me. The air wasn't cold, it was solid ice so frigid as to cause physical pain. My clenched teeth began to chatter loudly. My mouth opened wide, I desperately gulped down oxygen in little gasps. Every breath a painful struggle. I was wrong. And something else even worse is coming next. The voice rang out in my mind again, as I knew it would.
Sachi.
Fuck. And so the nightmares began. Oh, shit.
どう？さっちゃん、今日は食べられる？
Alright. I have to end it here. It has been 2 hours. More than 2 hours, actually. Crazy Apple is what we're on. Lovely. Got a lot of goosebumps now. Not the kind from the last episode, or last session, I should say. 8 episodes were recorded in this session, so I really pulled one for you guys. But it's because in these next 4 days, I will be very busy with work, and not really looking forward to it, but I felt as if I should get as much recording done as possible. Even had Colton come over yesterday so we could record our stuff for the other playthrough I'm doing on my channel, if you guys didn't know about it. So, just getting myself prepared for that. So thank you so much for watching these 8 episodes. I hope you guys enjoy them. They were really deep. If any of you guys knew what was coming, then I hope you guys enjoyed my reactions to everything. This was a very intense session for sure, and it's really hard to remember every bit of it. Like, I'm not really remembering this much from the anime, if any of this was in the anime. But this is intense stuff, and it's really getting to me, so in a few days I'll come back to this, and I might be a little, like, out of it, but we'll continue on with Sachi's past, which I was hoping we were getting to the end of, and that's why I kept on going. But we're not there yet, so hopefully next time we finish up her past, we get back to the present, and we'll see what happens between Yuji and Sachi. Really looking forward to it. I feel as if the negativity and all the bad isn't done yet, but man, this shit really did get deep and serious. Man. I don't know, dude. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My name is Michael SK, and I'll see you next time in the Fruit of Grisaia. Take care.